Hello and welcome to another episode of Tech Startup Unfiltered, the show that is inside the Tech Startup Founders Academy. I'm your co-host, Pete Daly-Dixon, and I'm joined as ever by, drumroll please.
Hello, I'm Stuart Prestedge, and Pete's going to extract more information from you today.
Yeah, I hope you're strapped in tight into your dentist chair there, Stuart, because we're going to get some real golden nuggets out of you today. First off, how you doing? Tell us something positive that's happened in your life, personally, professionally, over the last 7 days.
Oh my goodness, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. Personally, I played a semi-pro badminton player on Monday, and it was very, very close. He beat me by a hair's breadth, so I was quite pleased about that.
So you played a semi. You're playing semi-pro. You say you're playing.
I don't play semi-pro, but I played a semi-pro player.
Yeah. So you're playing at a high level.
Not that good, but I was determined on Monday. But anyway, it was fun. And nearly killed me, literally. And professionally, it's been a ploddy week. I've been helping clients with requirements documents a lot, and I've got a couple of clients that have just got to the investor outreach stage. I'm helping them with that and like tweaking their pitch deck, tweaking their business plan, etc. What else? Gosh. I'm quite pleased.
You only have to find one thing. You don't.
Automation. I'm quite pleased. My automations are like perfect now for the sales funnel. So I'm quite pleased with that.
Yeah, and that's making mine and Matt's job a lot easier.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that comes to mind is the launch of April's Momentum that we had last night. Michelle was there for that as well. It's really excited to see what can happen inside the Tech Startup Founders Academy when the founders really join together and really
work
to drive momentum, not only in the community, in the engagement there, but also in their startups. Lee said it, Lee Lawrenson joined recently, and he posted that really that's half the battle, is staying committed to ourselves and keeping that momentum going. And that's precisely why we have momentum months every other month inside the Tech Startup Founders Academy, to make it easier to keep it, to kind of almost gamify that necessity, that desire to have momentum.
Yeah, and of course, because of that, we've almost got 200 members in the academy.
We have, yeah, we're over 100, 180. So this time next year, we'll be wading in founders all over the place. It'll be great, exciting, looking forward to it. But just talking about momentum, it's all well and good having momentum and moving forward, but it's really important that as founders, we're moving forward in the right direction and doing the right things at the right time. And Stuart, when you first floated to me your idea about what we talk about in this episode, I was like, yes, that's like brilliant, and I can't wait to talk to you about it and get out of you what founders really need that's inside your brain, and that is, what is the whole journey from waking up one morning with an idea to change the world through a software product, kind of making a bit light of it, but we do have ideas, through to getting investment and maybe even beyond. I know with a lot of founders that I talk to in my capacity of working with you, for qualifying founders to work with you one-to-one, so many of them speak to either not knowing that they don't know what they don't know because they've never done it before, but also even with the stuff that they do know, they're not quite sure what it is that they should be doing next or focused on next to actually make the biggest difference and create the most momentum in their startups. So yeah, really great thing to talk about. And it may be that in this show we just talk about it at a particular at a high level, just to kind of give that kind of overarching thing, and in other episodes we can delve in. So first off, then, what did you have in mind when you first sent me the message about, maybe we should talk about this on one of the shows?
Well, from what you were saying about people don't know what they don't know, and I've been asked several times in recent months, what is the whole journey from beginning to end? What are the big rocks, big steps? And in fact, I think Michelle, you asked it, who's on the call today, asked it in not so many words yesterday. So I thought it would be great to go through that journey. Now we might run out of time, because I might dive in details too much. So I just thought we would cover the whole journey if we can.
Yeah. So let's climb in the helicopter together and start to take up. I know you're. How are the flying lessons going, by the way?
I'm waiting for my first actual lesson. I've got my radio license, and promptly forgotten everything. So I've probably got to refresh myself before I hop in a plane. But that's April, May. I think it's the first lesson. I forget.
All right, cool. That's fixed wing. But let's say we're climbing in the helicopter and we're lifting off and we're climbing all the way up to 15,000, 20,000 feet. What does that idea to investment journey look like at that level from that perspective, with you having been down that journey so many times?
Yeah. So it's mostly you can do things in serial, one than the other. There are some things that happen in parallel. So the first thing to consider is the idea. Some people have more than one idea and think, I want to make a startup, and I've got to choose which idea to choose. So that in itself is a mixture of sort of logical thinking and some experience and then some validation. And then the second step should always be, but it's not always, validation. Now that I've got a little bit of detail there, because that validation will help you choose your idea as well. So validation is around, obviously, research, speaking to potential customers, looking at competitors, and it's a double-edged sword. If there are competitors, it kind of proves there's a market, or at least gives you confidence there's a market, but at the same time you're competing against others. So you've got to research how much of the market they've sewn up. So validation is so important, but lots of founders, especially technical founders, dive into the building a product. And it's a common mistake to and sorry, this is all off the top of my head. I haven't done any preparation for this, so I might be rambling a bit.
No, and rightly so. But I want to make sure that I feel that the helicopter started to descend a little bit. So I want to make sure that we stay up at that level. So we're working up with several ideas, and however we've done it, and we can focus on how we do the validation perhaps later on, or in fact have an whole episode around it. So what's next? We feel confident. How does it? That's a question for you. How does it feel? How does a founder know when an idea is validated? What are the signals that they should be looking for?
Well, how long is a piece of string? I've been asked this, again, a number of times recently, and over time. Is like, how much is enough? How many potential customers is enough? How many letters of intent is enough? How many people on the wait list is enough? And my standard answer is, well, look, these people you're speaking to are potential customers. And if they say yes, hopefully they'll become a customer. So you're not wasting time. You're not wasting time collecting more potential customers through whatever means. So there's not enough, but you've got to, at some point, move on to the next thing. It doesn't mean you, and this is what I was talking about serial and parallel earlier, doesn't mean I believe you should continue trying to build the wait list, reach out to potential customers, have more conversations, get letters of intent, that kind of thing. You should continue doing that, I believe, right until you launch, and then when you launch, so don't stop doing it, but there comes a point where it reduces down. Now, what is that point?
Just one quick observation there at this kind of 20,000 foot view is, am I right in thinking is that you don't really move beyond I mean, you certainly don't move into doing any kind of MVP development until you've got at least some people who
Yeah,
have put their hand up and said, yes,
absolutely.
I will pay for that, for what it is that you've been talking to me about. There
Yeah,
has to be at least one person.
of course. If you can't find, reach, engage, and then get them to say, yeah, okay, uh, non, conditionally probably, but I would definitely consider purchasing your product, or have a need for your product, and I would purchase it if it met, if it met that need and met certain other criteria. If you can't do that, how are you going to actually get money off of them when you have a product?
Right.
So you've got to be able to do it. And again, some of my clients struggle to do that, and they're like, "Oh, well, we'll just carry on." It's like, well, no, because if you can't do it at this stage, how are you going to do it when you've got a product?
Yeah,
Now,
and in your view, and I know that you referenced technical founders earlier,
yeah,
uh, that there can be a tendency to just to jump straight in and start building the product. Are you saying uh, that regardless of how confident you are in being able to build what it is that's in your head, do not start building anything
yes,
until you have found at least one person who is willing to buy what it is that you
I,
bought?
I believe so. I believe so. And it's not just technical founders, actually. Non technical founders commission. So this is worse because they pay for
Mm.
prototype, MVP, something, or even designs, even pay for designs when they haven't gone through the proper process. And I'll talk about the next steps to get to that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, great.
But there's a common mistake, which is to think if you have that problem and you assign value to that problem and priority to that problem, then other people have the same view, and that's a common mistake. Um,
Mm.
and
Mm.
you see it when people release their products, build the products and release it, and then they can't make sales. And I have
Yeah,
quite a few people come to me and say, "Will you help me make sales? Help me find customers. Help me." It's like, okay, have you not done that already? I don't
mm.
say that, of course. I try to be
Yeah.
positive and constructive, but yeah,
Not to their face, only on this show.
yeah, only to the
If you identify with Stuart's remark, then it's not personal.
yeah, yeah. But but everyone is where they are, and you do your best to sort of help them move forward, obviously. But
Yeah. Okay. So we're lifting back up again. So
okay,
we have got we found half a dozen people that have said I absolutely have that problem and I would absolutely pay to get it solved. What's next?
so what's next? I think that you need to define your kind of whole strategy, and that means in your head, but document it as well. You have to document your the research that you've done, the results of the research, which should inform you. So you have business requirements, and those business requirements kind of are in your head, but they're a mix of things that you want from your business and that you feel that potential customers will need from the business, and that informs your strategy, and that should be documented. So the market research summary should document that, and you should create a go-to market strategy which includes things like pricing models, and marketing channels, because you'll have talked to these potential customers and find out either you'll have reached them through a certain channel, so you know where they hang out, or you'll have asked them where they hang out, researched it,
Mm.
but also a business plan, a financial model. It's
Mm.
critical that you do that, absolutely critical. And again, founders just don't do it. I speak to founders like, have you done a plan? No. And the reason for doing that is, one, it's not just as showing you how much revenue you could make. It's showing if you've got a viable business, allowing you to test various strategies, different scenarios, worst case, best case kind of thing. Tell if you're looking for funding, tells you how much funding you need. You'll use this in your due diligence to justify the numbers in your pitch deck and your pitch, for example. Um, but first and foremost, it will inform you if you have a viable business,
Mm.
regardless of whether you want to get funding or not. And if you want to get funding, it will tell you if there's going to be, or what the return on an investment would be. And you have to be very, very clear on what are assumptions and what are what's fact, what's data that you gathered or researched.
Yeah.
So
I
business.
mean, just in something, just something you said there, Stuart, it kind of makes me want to circle back to the validation piece. It seems to me that those conversations that you have in the validation phase with potential customers really need to be quite structured and
Yes.
detailed. Do they? There's specific information that a founder should be seeking to get in order to be able to do really effective work further downstream.
Yes, those conversations, I see it as kind of like a funnel. You start off with very wide open questions, and then you narrow it down to more narrow closed questions. But you need to go into those conversations specifically with the things you want to get out. And it doesn't have to be one call, one conversation, but it's like overall, added together.
Yeah.
You need to know, you need to really think about what it is I need from this conversation. So, for example, what pricing structure works for these kind of customers? What range of prices would they accept? Things like that.
And if I know you, I would say I would hazard a guess that you have a process for structuring these validation
and a document
calls.
which describes that process. Yeah.
Inside the Tech Startup Founders Academy is where you can get hold of that how document.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky because I have got zero memory. So I can't remember anything. So I write everything down, and therefore I ended up with everything being written down. So that's quite handy.
Okay, great. So listen, we've started to descend a little bit. So we're going back up into the 20,000 foot view. We've had several ideas. We've validated some. We've got half a dozen customers. We've had some great conversations with them, and that's flowing through into strategy. As a first-time founder, I don't really know exactly what goes into that, but I know about a business plan, and I've used the excellent business plan template that's inside the Tech Startup Founders Academy, and I've got some, I've got some documentation there. So what's next? And is all this before I even start building an MVP or a prototype?
Okay, so two things. Well, I'll cover that one first. So, in an ideal world, you would obviously at some point you're going to need to build a product. Now, if you're getting funding, if you need to get funding or investment, I should say, in an ideal world, you would build something before seeking investment so that you can get traction. Now, traction comes in many forms, is really important. It's not just money, it doesn't have to be money. It's key assumptions that are tested and feedback from users, so that and growing numbers of users and people on your wait list, and there's a bunch of stuff that goes towards traction. But having a product really helps you get traction and also be more attractive to investors if you can. Now, it's becoming easier and easier to build MVPs, but it's kind of a bit of a Wild West dangerous world that we're in with the vibe coding. People are vibe coding, but these products are not, in my opinion, always fit for purpose. So whenever you build your MVP, whether it's before you get investment or after you get investment, or you don't need investment, for example, a critical step, in my opinion, is turning everything you've got, which is your business requirements and your kind of your thoughts on what's going to be in the product and the features and the benefits, blah, 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 turn those into a technical requirements document. So this is something, it's not strictly part of funding per se, but it is something that you should do, whether you're building the product yourself, whether you're getting someone else to build it, whether it's vibe coded or traditionally coded, whichever, you should create a requirements document. And that has a number of benefits. One is to crystallize your thoughts, to identify the gaps. And I'm going through this process with 2 clients at the moment. And it really brings out I didn't think of this, and I didn't think of this, and I didn't think of this. Now, that needs to be thought about. You can't just leave it. You have to handle, the software has to know how to handle every situation. So what I do is I create a question register, because you can't always answer things straight away. You keep track of the unknowns. Or, you can do it with like comments in the document and things like that. And I have surprise, surprise, I have a template and a process for this. But I hope there are no developers listening. I have a motto, which is don't let developers make decisions, because it's not
What do
their
you mean
job.
by that?
Well, it's not their job to decide how the software should behave under certain conditions. Just like it's not a bricklayer's job to decide, am I going to put a wall here? Or
I see.
um,
Great analogy.
so they follow a plan.
Yeah.
And there's a process. So you take the requirements document, which is kind of human speak, but very structured and logical. It should be accurate, complete, and consistent. So no gaps, no errors, and no inconsistencies. Now,
Kind of. I mean, we know there are two types of founders. There's technical founders and there's non-technical founders. Can a non-technical founder create a technical requirement specification? And we know there is a template available for free inside the Tech Startup Founders Academy to create a requirement specification document. But how can a non-technical founder go about it? If they're not in a one-to-one relationship with you, for example.
Yeah, it's possible, but it is hard. You need to be a very logical thinker. You need to have a lot of attention to detail, and you need to be able to think, a little bit laterally, like, well, hang on, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? And you can. Some people, I do recommend actually founders, whether they're doing a requirements document or doing the designs, I recommend pen and paper, draw out the screens. And I say, if you can't visualize things in an abstract way, I'm lucky I can, but not everyone can. Draw it out on paper. And a few founders have done that and said, wow, this is kind of really easy, but really useful.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess the advantage of doing it with pen and paper is that you're kind of getting rid of the any learning curve with software, or that barrier between brain and hand. Just like go analog. Just get a A3 sheet of paper and just draw it out.
Well, I recommend one screen per sheet, because then you can throw it away and do a new one without scribbling. And the space that you've got on that, you can write down the behavior. So it's not just about what visually is there. The requirements document is kind of, there's two areas. There's the concepts, the things that are in the software, and what those things are used for and how they're related to each other. So, if you're doing a sports app or a badminton app, say, you'd have the concept of a player and a court and a game and a match and a shuttlecock, and you'd have these concepts and how they relate together, and that informs the logic and the data structures. And then you have the UX, so the pages. You list out your pages, you list out your components, what's on them, the logic, the rules as to what's shown and when, and also what happens when things happen. Like if someone clicks on this, what happens, and then the states. If it's in this state, doing it will do this. If it's in that state, doing that. So that's generally the gist of the functional requirements.
Yeah.
And then you've got that for your front end, your back end, maybe an admin portal, and then you've got the non-functionals, and it's the non-functionals that are often missed.
What do you mean by non-functional?
Well, the stuff that are requirements that are not related to functionality. So languages, legal stuff, security stuff, performance, scalability, any reporting, analytics, logging, any technical requirements that are sort of from the high level. For example, you might have $100,000 of AWS credits, so you have a requirement to host on AWS, for example. Integrations.
Got it.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. We're in the helicopter. We almost touched down on the runway again, so we need to come back up. We've got 1 hour on the time here. So we've got that requirements document, and however we've done it, we found a technical co-founder, or we've managed to do it ourselves. We're confident in that. What's next? Let's see if we can get all the way through to investment.
So the next step, well, if you have bandwidth, which is very rare because you're very busy doing all this other stuff, if you have bandwidth, I advocate starting to reach out to appropriate, I say that very advisedly, appropriate investors as soon as possible.
Hmm.
And start off softly. Start off by stalking them on LinkedIn, for example. Liking comments and liking posts and commenting on posts. Maybe asking sensible questions. Not contrived questions. Connecting, and at some point saying hi. I'm building this. I thought it'd be good to connect. I'm not looking for investment yet. Um, but I thought you might be interested to
Yeah.
connect, and you want to know more.
I'm solving this problem in this domain. I know that
Yeah,
you have an
these
interest in
people,
that. Well,
this
obviously,
is where
if
we're
you've
at.
if you've stalked them properly and you've researched them, you should know that they are interested in the area that you're solving the problem for.
Yeah, there's a process for that, and then you have criteria, and then you have to check that they meet your criteria.
Mm.
Yeah, of course, but
I think
that's
I think the key, one of the key, and I want to make sure that the listener or watcher of this episode doesn't miss the gold in what you just said there, almost throwaway. I think one of the most important things in what you just said, in terms of this early relationship building with investors, is I'm not looking for investment.
yeah, that's
I'm
right.
not looking for investment, not now. And the I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of founders for whom that is generally true that move
Yeah,
towards us.
and
Typically they come to us like almost too late, because when you need it is like yeah. Can you speak to that at all?
well, yeah, lots of founders come early. They're not too late, but I give them that choice and saying, look, you have this bandwidth, and very honest, it's like, I can't do it. I'm too busy. I'm too busy doing everything else. Like, okay, but it would be better if you could. But I recognise that is very difficult, and so yeah,
Mm.
I fully agree that founders don't tend to do this. I mean, it is time consuming, honestly, but you should manage the process properly. Treat it like a sales process. Um, even at that early stage, and whether they use a CRM or a spreadsheet doesn't matter, because you want to be following people up. Now, speaking of following up, the ultimate for an investor that you've engaged with before you're seeking investment is to get them on your investor update mailing list. So ask them,
Interesting.
would you like me to, would you like me to send you occasional updates? Put you on my update list. I
Great.
won't spam
And
you.
what do you that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard you talk about that. And how regularly would you recommend founders to
Um, once a month is kind of ideal, I think. But you've got to show progress. You've got to have the update saying, "Oh, we've done this, we've done it," because your credibility is on the line. And
yeah.
if an investor says, "Hang on, it's been 3 months and you haven't got anywhere," they'll get like, well, "Okay, what's going
Yeah.
on? Why?"
What I see in that, sorry to cut across, I've just got an eye on the time, is that is another way of kind of putting something in place to almost force, in inverted commas, momentum. It's like if you know that you've got to put if you've got to email, the
Good
half
point.
dozen investors that you
Yeah,
found, is like, well,
yeah,
what goals are you going to set yourself this month in order to be able to update your investors?
yeah.
That's a
That's a good
great
point.
tip.
That's a good point. So yeah, I won't say any more about that because of the time, because we haven't got on to creating the pitch deck yet. But before you
Yeah.
create the pitch deck, after you've created your business plan, you need to do market sizing exercise, and this is something that founders almost always get wrong. And again, I won't go into detail. I have a process, I have templates, I
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. But TAM, SAM, and SOM, I'm sure everyone's heard of that. Very important.
Yeah. And is that done? That's done after the business plan, or
Yeah.
does that calculation then feed into the business plan? So it's kind of done
No,
at the same time.
no. It depends on the business plan, not the other way around.
Right.
So in fact, the business plan feeds directly into your SOM and your SOM SAM ratio. It does and also what feeds into from the business plan to the market sizing is, for example, the ARPU or ARPC, which is the average revenue per customer or per user, because you need to know that to do the TAM and the SAM properly.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so we've done that. Then what?
Pitch deck.
Okay, great. Then what?
Pitch deck done.
Right. Well, listen, we could spend like half a dozen episodes just talking about the pitch deck. We know there's a whole world of stuff there that we can go into in detail, but we've done a pitch deck, and I guess then you're then going back to the investors that you have been softly developing relationships with and saying, look, can I send you my pitch deck?
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the investors you've reached out to, but for some reason, founders always tend to reach out to VCs. They say, "Oh, we need VC." It's not always the right answer, and there are various factors that determine what is the right investor to reach out to. And that I do that as part of an investor criteria process, which can be done after the business plan, which is why I said you can reach out earlier, but you kind of need to do the business or have a rough business plan first, because the biggest thing that determines what type of investor is the amount you're looking to raise. Now, there are two methods I use to work that out. So you can, I won't say manipulate, but you can have one of two different strategies, which gives you different raise amounts, which allows you to control that a little bit. So you could bring yourself up to micro VC level of the 350 odd thousand and above. But typically at the $250,000 or so, you're looking at angel groups or individual angels. But not one necessarily. But the investor criteria includes other criteria as well. So you need to do that exercise at some point, and then that will determine the investors that you reach out to. Now, there are different, depending on the investor type, there are different strategies for doing this.
And we talked about this particular part of the journey in quite a bit of detail on the previous episode. So so I think as an overarching, it's been a pleasure being in the helicopter with you for the last half an hour, Stuart, and those who've been on the call with us. But that's a really fascinating, unfiltered view. Like there's just the real nuts and bolts truth of what is involved from waking up with idea number 272,365 of my life to actually taking that through to getting investment, and I'm sure that will raise questions for founders as they watch the replay, and plenty of scope there to dig into each individual aspect of the journey in more detail on this show. Any final last words about that journey?
Yeah, a couple. First of all, Michelle's saying about with investor, would you feel with them on LinkedIn actually be open to the approach? Yeah, LinkedIn is a perfectly good way to approach investors. There are other platforms, other tools, and I feel like
that's Phil. That's Phil, not Michelle.
Oh, sorry, Phil. Yeah,
you both got red backgrounds, so it's difficult.
Yeah, and I'm blind.
little tiny thumbnail.
Yeah, I'm just reading the text. So LinkedIn is fine, but there are other platforms, other ways of doing it. As I said, I feel like I've just skimmed the surface of this stuff, but yes, I mean, even cold email, it's working less and less, but it can work. It has worked. The landscape's changing a little bit over time, which means if you can get an MVP built, it's more and more useful. It becomes less hard, let's say, to get investment.
Phil asked a follow-up question, which is quite interesting. So what about old school letters in a digital world, that kind of analog?
I don't know. Is the answer. I don't know. You try it. There's nothing wrong with trying it. My preference would be not, because imagine what happens when you get a piece of paper in the post. Oh God, a piece of paper sitting on my desk. I've got to scan it anyway, or bin it, or it's going to sit there forever. But if it's, I don't know. I've never tried that,
Test
so I
and measure.
haven't really
Test and
thought.
measure.
Test,
Test and measure.
yeah, but I'm just trying to think it through, and I haven't thought it through, so I won't think it through now. But I'll give it some thought.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Okay, well, that's a wrap for this show. Yeah, Phil, definitely give it a whirl. You are a trendsetter.
Let us know how it
You're a
goes.
legend.
Yeah.
You're a legend in your own mind, in your own
Well,
lifetime.
I'll tell you what. Sorry, there is a final thing here. What we haven't talked about is picking up the phone. Picking up the phone. And one of my clients, great. He's great. He has no qualms. Picked up the phone to Angel Group, to VC, to a high net worth person. He just is happy to call them and say, "Hey, you got free time for a chat," and he's had certain success with that. So yeah, that's another old school.
Maybe we could get him on one of these shows and kind of get him to share his experience. I mean, my experience of that is there's a lot of mindset stuff that goes on with picking the phone up, and that's a whole other area that we haven't touched on in that journey. I mean, it's all like you say, we've skimmed the surface at a high level. Is there's plenty of things that can get in the way of that journey, not least of which what's going on between our ears and behind our eyes.
Yeah.
And that's why ultimately, I guess, the Tech Startup Founders Academy exists, because it can be a tough old journey on our own, and being around people who are in the same situation and working on similar things, different stages of that journey that we've looked at today, can be a real boost to our morale and the momentum that we're able to generate in our startups. So as always, Stuart, thank you for sharing, for your openness, for telling us like it is, and see you and everyone else same time, same place next week.
Thanks, Pete.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Cheerio. Bye-bye.